kindly pray for unity in diversity and religious tolerance, and secularism should persist in India. Among Indians, there is no overwhelming consensus on the benefits of religious diversity. Generally, more Indians see diversity as a benefit than view it as a liability for the country. Roughly half, that is 53% of Indian adults say India's religious diversity benefits the country, while about a quarter, that is 24%, see diversity as a harmful, with similar figure among both Hindus and Muslims. But 24% of Indians do not take a clear position either way. They say diversity neither benefits nor harms the country. In a country with 22 official languages and dozens of others, a slim majority, 56%, say being able to speak Hindi is very important to being truly Indian. In regions where more Indians speak Hindi, more people view the language as intrinsic to national identity. Fully 85% of those in the central region, where more than 99% of respondents list Hindi among the languages they speak, say that speaking Hindi is very important to being truly Indian, while only 27% of those in southern India, a region where just 14% of reports speaking Hindi, take the same view. While there is some mixing of religious celebration and tradition within India's diverse population, many Hindus do not approve of this. In fact, while 17% of the nation's Hindus say they participate in Christmas celebration, about half of Hindus, 52%, say that doing so disqualifies a person from being Hindu. An even great share of Hindus, 63%, say a person cannot be Hindu if they celebrate the Islamic festival of Eid, a view that is more widely held in northern, central, eastern and northeastern India than the south or west India. Most Muslims in India say a person cannot be Muslim if they never pray or attend a mosque. Similarly, about 6 in 10 say that celebrating Diwali or Christmas is incompatible with being a member of the Muslim community. BJP is often described as promoting a Hindu nationalist ideology. Among Hindus in particular, attitude toward interreligious marriages and neighborhoods are closely tied to views on politics and national identity. Hindus who strongly favor religious segregation, those who say that all their close friends are Hindus, that it's very important to stop Hindus from marrying outside the faith, and that they would not accept people of some other faith as neighbors, are much more likely than other Hindus to take the position that it is very important to be a Hindu to be truly Indian. They are also more likely to have voted for the Bharatiya Janata Party in the 2019 parliamentary election. PEW survey finds that Hindus tends to see their religious identity and Indian national identity as closely intertwined. Nearly two-thirds of Hindus, 64%, say it is very important to be Hindu to be truly Indian. Indians in the central region are the most likely to link Hindu identity with Indian identity, that is 78%, while Indians in the northeast and south are the least likely to say that being Hindu is very important to being truly Indian, that is 33% and 39% respectively. Most Hindus, 59%, also link Indian identity with being able to speak Hindi as one of dozens of languages that are widely spoken in India. And these two dimensions of national identity, being able to speak Hindi and being a Hindu, are closely connected. Among Hindus who say it is very important to being Hindu to be truly Indian, fully 80% also say it is very important to speak Hindi to be truly Indian. The BJP's appeal is greater among Hindus who closely associate their religious identity and the Hindi language with being truly Indian. In the 2019 national election, 60% of Hindu voters who think it is very important to be Hindu and to speak Hindi to be truly Indian cast their vote for the BJP, compared with only a third among Hindu voters who feel less strongly about both these aspects of national identity. Indians generally stick to their own religious group when it comes to their friends. Hindus overwhelmingly say that most or all of their close friends are also Hindu. Of course, Hindus make up the majority of the population, and as a result of sheer number, may be more likely to interact with fellow Hindus than with the people of other religions. But even among Sikhs or Jains, who each form a sliver of national population, a large majority say their friends come mainly or entirely from their small religious community. In India, a person's religion is typically also the religion of that person's close friends. A large majority of Indian adults say that either all, that is 45%, or most 40% of their close friends have the same religion they do. Relatively few adults, that in 13%, have a more mixed friendship circle, saying that some, hardly any or none of their friends share their faith. Nearly half of Hindus, 47%, say all of their close friends share their religious identity, and an additional 39% say most of their friends are fellow Hindus. But the country's religious minorities also have friendship circle consisting largely of people of their own religion. For example, the vast majority of Muslims, 88%, say all or most of their friends are Muslim. People belonging to smaller religious groups are less likely than Hindus and Muslims to say all their friends are of the same religion. Still, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists and Jains also tend to form friendship mostly within their group. For example, among Jains, who make up less than 0.5% of India's population, 72% say their close friends are entirely, that is 28%, or mostly 45% other Jains. Generally, Indians do not object to members of other religious groups living in their village or neighborhood. Still, a substantial share of Indian adults say they would be unwilling to accept members of certain other religion as neighbors. Majorities in India say hypothetically that they would be willing to accept members of other religious groups as neighbors. For instance, large majorities of Muslims, 78%, and members of other religious minority communities say they would be willing to live near a Hindu, which may be unsurprising given that Hindus make up a large majority of India's population. Among Hindus, most say they would be willing to live near a member of a religious minority such as a Muslim, 57%, a Christian 59%, or a Jain 59%. But many Hindus express reservations about such an arrangement. For example, 36% of Hindus say they would not be willing to live near a Muslim, and 31% say they would not want a Christian living in their neighborhood. Jains are even more likely to express such views. 54% would not accept a Muslim as a neighbor, and 47% say the same about Christians. Politically, Hindus who voted for the BJP in the 2019 election tend to be less willing to accept some religious minorities in their village or residential area. Hindus in the central region tend to be less willing to accept a Muslim 46% or a Christian 45% as a neighbor. Meanwhile, for larger share of Hindus in the south say they would be willing to have Muslims 75% or Christians 77% living nearby. Generally, people who have more education are more likely to say they would accept people of other religions as neighbors. For example, 63% of Hindus with a college degree say they would be willing to accept a Muslim in their neighborhood, compared with 56% of those with less education. Among Hindus, those who live in urban areas of the country also express higher level of tolerance in this respect. Hindus who live in the south are more likely than Hindus in other regions to say they would accept a Muslim or a Christian as neighbor. The central region of the country, by contrast, stands out as highly religious segregated. Fewer Indians go so far as to say that their neighborhood should consist only of people from their own religious group. Still, many would prefer to keep people of certain religion out of their residential area or villages. For example, many Hindus 45% say they are fine with having neighbors of all other religions, be they Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Buddhist or Jain. But an identical share 45% say they would not be willing to accept followers of at least one of these groups, including more than 1 in 3 Hindus, 36%, who not want a Muslim as a neighbor. Among Jains, a majority 61% say they are unwilling to have neighbors from at least one of these groups, including 54% who would not accept a Muslim neighbor. Although nearly all Jains, 92% say would be willing to accept a Hindu neighbor. Among Muslims who prefer more religious segregation, that is, who say they would not accept a person of a different faith as a neighbor. Indians may be comfortable living in the same neighborhood as people of different caste, but they tend to make close friends within their own caste. About 1/4, 24% of Indians say all their close friends belongs to their caste, and 46% say most of their friends are from their own caste. About 3 in Brahmins, 29% say they would not be willing to accept members of scheduled community, that is Dalit, as neighbors. Also, a substantial portion of Jains, about 4 in 10 Jains, that is 41%, they say that they would not be willing to accept Dalit as neighbors. One behavior that a clear majority of Indian Hindus feel it is incompatible with Hinduism is eating beef. 72% of Hindus in India say a person who eats beef cannot be a Hindu. Attitude towards beef appear to be a part of a regional and cultural divide among Hindus. Southern India Hindus are considerably less likely than others to disqualify beef eaters from being Hindu. 50% versus 83% in the northern and central parts of the country. Like Hindus, Muslims have a dietary restriction that resonate as powerful marker of identity. 3/4 of Indian Muslims, 77% say that a person cannot be Muslim if they eat pork. Many Hindus and Jains also, they won't eat food in places where the rules around diet are different from what they personally follow. For example, 51% of Hindus and an even larger share of Jains, 72% say they would not never eat food in the home of someone whose religion has different rules about food than theirs. Fewer than half of Hindu vegetarians say they would ever eat food in a restaurant that serves both vegetarian and non-vegetarian food, 36%, or in the home of a friend or neighbor who is non-vegetarian, that is 39%. If you are truly Hindu, you can't hate Muslims, Christians and Dalits. In Hinduism, foundational principles, concepts like chosen ones, villains, victims and oppressor don't exist. So hating someone or some group is fundamentally un-Hindu. Hatred is a powerful tool to unite people. Each one argue passionately why their hatred is justified. Hatred is easy to justify when you see yourself as the victim. When you believe in justice and equality, it feels right to hate those who oppress, those promoters of injustice and inequality, the villain, the monster. In modern retelling of Hindu tales, Asuras and Rakshasas are presented as villains and monsters who needed to be killed by gods. Durga imbues Mahisha with her trident, Narsimha disempowers Hiranyakashipu with his sharp claws, Ram brings down Ravan with a volley of arrows. However, when we delve deeper and actually observe the ritual performance and temple ceremonies, we notice that the mosque and images of Mahisha, Hiranyakashipu and Ravan are always worshipped. These demons are not vilified, they are venerated. But when these stories are retold on television and cinema, screenplay writers distort the mythic narrative to the demands of modern storytelling. They need heroes, villains and victims. So they turn Durga, Narasimha and Ram into superheroes fighting supervillains. Effectively, the Hindu story becomes biblical, where the Messiah comes to the rescue. Politicians who tell Hindus to hate are spinning a rather un-Hindu yarn of injustice and equality. Social media propagates the discourse that Hindus are victims of injustice, that Hindus have to fight back. If Jews have weaponized anti-Semitism and Muslims have weaponized Islamophobia, Hindus needed to weaponize Hinduphobia. Manufacturing enemies, inventing threats does mobilize people. As a result, in India, all issues are reduced to either a Brahmin Dalit or Hindutva Muslim or Hindutva Christian confrontation. We do not have to subscribe to it. Amen. Bible talks about unity in diversity and religious tolerance and secularism in India. In Philippians chapter 4 verse 18. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, implant them in your hearts. Also in 1 John chapter 3 verse 18, dear one, let us not love merely in theory with word or with tongue, giving lip service to compassion, but in action and in truth, that is in practice and in sincerity, because practical acts of love are more than words. Amen. Reference for this article, reference PUW Research 2021 and 20th July 2024 Times of India Daily Newspaper.